Hi, I'm Deanie Pellegrinin, import from Ohio, moving here to Tryon about 3.5 years ago, and I've met the most interesting people I ever have met before in my life. One of those people is sitting here with me today. I thought we would start the series of interviews with the mayor of our fine little town, Tryon, North Carolina. And thank you so much for letting us have your time today, Mayor Alan Peebles.
Thank you, Deanie. I appreciate it very much.
Well, I don't know that everyone appreciates what I do, but I talk a lot and I ask a lot of questions. But I think once I start talking to you, you're going to solve my problem and do all the talking. Are you the mayor of Tryon? Are you a native of Tryon or Polk County?
No, ma'am. I moved here in 1979 as principal of an elementary school to stay 1 year and move on to bigger and better things.
But you moved here from where?
I moved here from South Carolina, where I had just finished a master's at the University of South Carolina in educational administration.
So you're an educator, and that accounts for your interest in coming here because of the schools, which we'll talk about maybe a little later. But you came here as a teacher. You were offered the job. Had you checked out the vicinity? Did you know what you were coming to?
Actually, I did not. The first time I saw Polk County, I rode in a semi with my father in the mid-1950s, came to Columbus and actually spent the night in what was then the county prison, because my father...
Wait a minute, you spent the night in the prison?
I spent the night in the prison. That was my start in Polk County.
That was a good start.
But my father drove a truck for the state of North Carolina, and I loved to ride with him, particularly to the mountains. And so my first introduction, I think, was probably 1956 or 57 to see Polk County. And then who would know that about 20-some years later, I would end up back here with my family.
You didn't start out to be mayor, I'm sure. Your college degree was in education, you say, okay?
Yes, ma'am. I did not start out to be mayor. I never had any interest in politics until 1996, when the county had made a decision with some people wanted to tear down the courthouse and replace it. And I love history, so I ran for county commissioner to help save the courthouse. And as a result, I got elected, spent 4 years as a commissioner, 2 years of those as chair of the county commission, and then proceeded to lose the next election. And the year after that, I decided to run for the mayor of Tryon. Unbeknownst to me, about the time I filed, we discovered that we were $1.7 million in the red. And my wife says, "You've done what? And we owe how much?"
That was not a very tempting offer, I would think.
No, it was not tempting, but I'm pretty much like most people. If I gave my word I was going to run and try to solve the problem, I in fact ran, and it's taken us 11 years, but this fiscal year we will have paid back that entire $1.7 million.
You've been mayor 7 years?
No, ma'am, I've been mayor 11 years.
Oh, 11 years. They must like you here.
Well, my wife says that it was my turn and nobody else is foolish enough to run.
You know, I think your wife probably has a point there. But you look around, would you have, without having a job offer, the opportunity you had, would there have been anything here that would have attracted you to a little town about the population of how many? There's
fewer than 2,000 here. I like small towns. I grew up in North Carolina in a small town called Franklinton, and we had 1,414 people. I like the small town. I like the fact that in a small town you get to know everybody, and you can affect change if you're willing to stick your neck out.
Well, you certainly were with you didn't accumulate it, but you inherited a horrific debt, and it will be paid off when?
During this fiscal year, we owe, I believe it's $22,000, and once we pay that between now and next July, we will have paid off everything that we were in the red.
Well, you said you liked history. We'll get away from the financial part of it. That's always an unpleasant topic, but it's a good topic in this case. Okay, are you going to run again?
Yes, I am.
Oh, I think you're here to stay. This is your career, but you don't just mayor the town. You do something else that I think is very significant.
Which thing is that?
Okay, a man of many talents. You're teaching, you're coaching.
Okay, that is correct. I stayed in education for 40 years, 10 years as a principal and 30 as a classroom teacher. And once I retired from teaching in December of 2010, I could not give up the coaching. So I am still the head coach of Polk County High School for the cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track.
And you've ruined your body doing it. You've tried to keep up with these young people. Haven't you learned by now that, as you age, joints wear out?
Yes, ma'am, and I'm beginning to learn what my students look like now because I've been following them around for years. I couldn't catch them.
Well, they have a terrific track record. I read the sports pages and so forth in the Tryon Daily Bulletin. We had a Daily Tribune back in Ohio, so I have to keep the two separate. But anyway, I think that's real interesting. That's why you have stayed not only mentally alert, but pretty good physically alert.
Well, I think that's paid off. My family has a history of not having longevity. On my father's side, my father passed away at 56 after having a stroke at 39, and I decided that what I had to do was try at least to eat fairly healthy and stay in shape, and the military helped me do that. The coaching has helped me do that, and especially my wife has helped me do that.
That was the most important one, the last one you mentioned, wasn't it?
Was true.
Okay. We can maybe later go into a little bit more of this because you have many facets in your busy life, and we can go into each one separately later. I'm interested in history, like you are. One of my favorite topics, of course, is Abraham Lincoln, and so I've always loved history, and I think that's one of the things that attracted me here. I didn't come here because I thought it was an attractive place to live. I came here because I was a widow, I was getting old, my daughter thought it was too far back to Ohio if anything happened to me. So they picked this place to settle because they didn't know why. They stayed at the Pinecrest Inn and fell in love with the place. So they said, why don't you sell your house and move down here with us, blah, blah, blah. I'm glad I did because I wouldn't be doing this. And this is something for 30 years I've done a program called, and I don't laugh, Mayor, don't laugh, The Chatterbox. For 30 years, I've done that. So this is kind of like Old Home Week for me to do this at this time of day. The beautiful buildings around here, the scenic beauty, of course, that's very obvious. The mountains and the hills and the dales and the weather. Here in Tryon, a lot of unused buildings are sitting here waiting for someone to say, "Take me, I'm all yours." Do you have any thoughts? You want to comment on this at this time?
Yes. Take them, please. One of the things that I would like to see in our town, let me go back and tell you a story that happened about a year ago. There was a gentleman visiting the coffee shop here, and I was sitting in the coffee shop, and someone introduced me as the mayor, and he looked at me and he said, "What do you want your town to look like in 20 years? And I said, "Go look out the door." He says, "What do you mean?" I said, "Go look out the door. And I want to see it look exactly the same way in 20 years, except I want all the storefronts full." I still have that vision.
So storefronts, that of course helps the economy. But what would you think about someone coming in to take over something and establishing, which there used to be a lot of business around here, there's still a few, but the old Grover, I don't know what they did there, but the Grover plant, for instance, that is there and empty. No? Wait a minute.
Are you talking about the one near the South Carolina line, or are you talking about the plant that is in Lynn?
Yeah.
Yes, that one is empty. A gentleman from South Carolina has bought that and has some ideas to put some businesses in that. And I have discussed some things with him, and I'm hoping that he will be able to move. Once you get into the economy problems that we had over the last 5 or 6 years, it appears that it goes down almost overnight, but it doesn't recover overnight. It takes sometimes a decade. I'm hoping it won't take that long here.
Yeah. So it has been purchased, and there are plans to do something with it, as far as you know. And do people who come in and buy a building like that, are you usually in on the consultation with those people, or is there another committee that looks into that? How does that work?
That's some of both. We have a gentleman on our staff, Chris Armbruce, Dr. Chris Armbruce, yes, that works individually with people. Libby from the county economic development lives on our street, so I'm up the street quite often chatting with her. And we have other people around who are trying to get a business to move to town. As an example, there is a businesses in California that's looking to move to Tryon. I met with that individual who was with Dr. Chris Armbruster. Somehow, I don't even remember how they got connected, but the gentleman is interested in buying a house on my street, moving a business here, because what they sell is shipped mostly, I understand, east of the Mississippi. So why ship from California to east of the Mississippi when you can ship from east of the Mississippi? So we could get a business and a house, and not too long ago he called me. He said, my sister-in-law is a teacher and interested maybe in coming there, so he sent me a resume, and I've passed that on to the school system.
So it's a network that gets these things going. How did he know about this place?
I actually don't know. I believe he knew someone in Hendersonville because he's working with a bank there. And so what you do is you find so many connections with Tryon. You can go almost anywhere in the United States and many places in the world and mention Tryon, and people go, oh, I knew somebody that was there. I visited there. I know about the horse. I remember the vineyards that were there in the early part of the century, or my grandparents talked about them. So we are a well-known name. We're vintage.
Well, we're Tryon. We're not perfect, but we keep trying. I think that's it. But I have another one. We're a dot on the map, but we're the crossroads of the world. Because I was introduced in the grocery store about a month ago to a gentleman from New Zealand. Hello, that's a pretty far spot away, but we're small and tiny, but there's so much activity here. I'm going to get these people like Dr. Armbruster. I want to get him to talk about why he came here and blah, blah. There are so many things of interest here for the arts, for the music, the actual theater-type arts, the visual arts. You could go someplace every day and take a lesson for something if you want to. We have the only flag museum in the whole United States. I'm going to talk to the Layers about their role in that later. And it just goes on, and it sometimes frightens me. I think, this is what's happening to this little place. Someone's put some water on it, and it's absorbed it, and it's now flowing everywhere. We have contacts everywhere. Am I wrong in thinking that we're a big city wrapped up in a small town image?
No, you are not. We had a dedication a few years ago of the clock tower downtown, and part of my dedication speech said something to the effect, there's nowhere else in the United States that has about 2 or 3 square miles that has the ability, the intelligence, the art, and just the future and far-seeing that you have in Tryon. In Tryon, whatever you want is there. You want to meet a professor? There's a retired one living across the street from me. You want to meet someone who used to work in the White House? There's a gentleman that lives 4 blocks from me that worked in the White House. You want to meet an Army or Air Force retired general? There have been 1 or 2 here. You want to meet someone who's in our diplomatic corps? There's someone here. So whatever you want, it's in Tryon.
I found that out working as a volunteer at the thrift shop, the auxiliary for the isn't that awful?
The St. Luke's?
St. Luke's Hospital. In my mind, I looked at you and you were smiling, and I thought, I can't think of this. It's St. Luke's. I have met more people across the counter there. And one of them is a gentleman who wrote speeches for some of our presidents and for some of the senators and so forth. And so this is what kind of thought, hey, there's something here. Let's capture it and let people in the outside world know what we've got here. And maybe someone might come in and just grab up one of these big old buildings here and start something that you had no plans for originally, but suddenly someone has a plan for it. Huh?
Oh, yes, I would like to see that. Example, a year and a half or so ago, Chris Armbruster was talking to Andy Millard. Andy wanted a new place for his business. He didn't particularly want to build. Chris said, let me talk to the town. We have the depot. So we got a public-private working together. The depot has been totally restored.
Beautiful.
Probably will end up on the National Register at some point. But the town didn't have to pay anything for that. Andy paid for it and has a 20-year rental agreement. And I've had people to say, well, why in the world did you do that? How about it would have cost us with interest to fix and finance that about $330,000? And now we have it done. It has been given an award from the North Carolina Small Town Main Street that we'll pick up in January. And it's a win-win-win.
Well, and there's been a building in addition to that, there was an offshoot from that, almost a duplicate of this was the old train depot. We've got train tracks through here that I wish we could get an excursion type train to run, but of course that's out of the question, and that's another story, that story of the trains. But Andy's done a beautiful job. We'll have him on a later program also, because he's been very instrumental in encouraging me to do what we're doing now. We've got so many things to talk about, Mayor Peoples. I'm going to have to come back and catch this another time with you when you can work me in between your track events, chasing the high school kids around the field, beautiful high school, and I want to get a program solely about the schools, and you would be a good one to help me with that later, okay?
Yes, I would love to help you with that later. Let me give you a quick thing in the end. This town was founded as an arts colony. William Gillette got off the train to get some grapes and some wine, and as a result, he bought what is now Gillette Woods, built Thousand Pines Inn, and had lots of connections with lots of people. We've had the wives of 2 or 3 presidents to visit here. We have had artists to visit here. We have had international artists to visit here. So, yes, we are an arts town. Let me ask you a question. How many towns this size have 4 bookstores? How many towns this size have 1 bookstore?
We could just go on and on with how many other towns have what we have here. And I'm so glad.
None.
Well, he answers his own questions. You're enthusiastic, and I can see why you've continued to be mayor for 11 years, did you say?
Yes, ma'am. Next Tuesday, I start year 12.
Well, we'll have to do an anniversary show or something with you. But anyway, we're going to sign off for now. But as I say, we are going to be back. We hope you will tune us in. And we're going to be, as you know, if you're hearing this, on the website for the newspaper. And we hope we can encourage a lot more of you talented people to move here, because we are a small dot on the map, but we are at the crossroads of the world.
We are nearly perfect, always trying.
Thank you very much, Mayor Peoples. And we'll be back again with another show with some of our interesting residents here. Hope you'll join us. Until then, have a good day.